Thanks, Martin. Now, angry HMV employees briefly took over the company's official Twitter account earlier today to protest it being sacked by the distressed retailer. The online revolt came as the company's administrators made 190 people redundant at its headquarters and distribution network. The messages, which were all tagged #HMVXFactorFiring, were soon deleted, but not before other users had retweeted them and grabbed screenshots. Sky's media and technology correspondent Neil Patterson has the latest.
Well, look, it's all a bit farcical. It makes HMV look ridiculous, and frankly, it shouldn't have happened. Let me take you through some of those tweets which were subsequently deleted, tweets which were received by the 70,000-odd followers of HMV's account. Starts off pretty straightforwardly. There are over 60 of us being fired at once, mass execution of loyal employees who love the brand. Sorry, we've been quiet for so long. Under contract, we've been unable to say a word, or more importantly, tell the truth. Just overheard our marketing director, he's staying, folks, ask, how do I shut down Twitter? Under unusual circumstances, we never dare do such a thing as this. However, when the company you dearly love is being ruined and those hard-working individuals who wanted to make HMV great again have mostly been fired, there seemed no other choice. I mean, first things first, if you are about to sack the person responsible for your social media, it is probably best advised that you change the password on your Twitter account. Otherwise, events such as this will ensue. I mean, HMV have a huge amount of egg in their faces, not just because of that marketing director asking, how do I switch off Twitter? But also because we heard about the redundancies that were taking place because the company's administration before the official notice went out. And more than that, we actually got a pretty clear insight into the views of those working at the company, or at least one individual working at the company, pointing the finger of blame for HMV's demise directly at the management. I suppose there is one last thing to say about all of this, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm afraid that the individual who is responsible for sending these tweets, individual or indeed individuals, we're not entirely certain, they should probably start looking for a job in another sector, or certainly one without responsibility for social media. I mean, which business would want to employ someone who'd been involved in something like this? I mean, if they've done it once, quite clearly they could do it again.
Well, I'm joined from our central London studio by Patrick Barrow, Director of Reputation Communications. Evening, Patrick. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. I guess this is a classic example of how it's no longer possible for a big company to control the entirety of its message.
You put your finger on it. It's about control. And I suppose that the worst reputational impact for HMV in all this, as a business trying to stage what should be an ordered and managed retreat, is it smacks of chaos. They've successfully combined, I suppose, the two elements of communication in one, in the sense that they've got obviously a very disgruntled and unhappy rogue employee, and they've got the immediate and obvious power of sort of digital communications. The two great corporate fears, really, something that is uncontrollable. And then in the background you have the obvious suggestion to the world that perhaps people weren't treated well, they weren't communicated with well, and the upshot is anger.
So, like it or not, in the age of Twitter, there is a conversation going on about the company, and the company can join it, it can influence it, but it can't block it.
Exactly right. It is about engagement. I think a lot of this could have been avoided. I mean, the perception is, and I am obviously second-guessing here, the perception is that employees were not engaged in the right way. They weren't filled in appropriately with information, and people have obviously filled the vacuum. They obviously feel as though they've been treated in a cavalier fashion. And then when you add into that the fact that, quite literally, HMV cannot control even the physical means of their communication, you're bound to end up with a problem.
Yes, the director who said, how do we close down Twitter? Well, he looks a bit Stalinist tonight, doesn't he?
Well, yes, and this, of course, is one of the dangers of corporate communications as a whole, is occasionally it can come across as very centralised. And one of the great ways around it has always been, or has been in recent years, digital communication. I mean, it's doubly unfortunate that somebody managed to get hold of their official means of so doing.
This story revolves around the staff, but of course there's the other side of the coin, customers, and they too are having a conversation way, way beyond the powers of control of central management.
Exactly. It's prompted all sorts, obviously, of thoughts and discussions around HMV and about the way they operate. I mean, I think it's more than about customers. There's obviously administrators operating in the background and a potential buyer, and the message it sends to them is
commentary on its affairs all the time. There are stock market regulations.
No, of course it can't. And I think, again, you simply have to communicate that simple fact that there are rules and regulations governing what cannot be said. You will go as far as you can. You will keep people informed when it is appropriate to do so. I think it really is a question of engendering trust between employee and employer wherever it can be done.
Indeed. Patrick Barrow, many thanks for joining us. We do appreciate your time. Next on Jeff Randall Live.